Hello, wonderful to see you again. It's Judy from Coffee, Cookies, and Books, and what we're going to talk about today is everything I read in the month of June. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about everything that I read in the month of June. Now, before we get started, I would really love it if you could like the video and subscribe below. I'm trying to work my way to 1,000 subscribers and hoping to get there by the end of the year. Fingers crossed, everything goes okay. So if you could help me with that, I'd be much appreciated. So before we get into everything that I read in the month of June, let's just go over my stats and talk about the challenges that I have. So for my stats for the month of June, I read 18 books for a total of 6,402 pages. So that is an average of about 200 pages a day, which is about right because I read at night in bed. So I usually read anywhere from 100 to 300 pages. So that's pretty good average. And the majority that I read this time, it says mystery. I don't know. It looks like a mix of books, but you can be the judge when we go through them. And while I do not give you the star ratings, the only one that I am going to tell you, which I think is going to be kind of obvious because I only have one 5-star and it'll be at the end. So you're going to know which one it is. But I only had one 5-star, one 4.5, 7 4-stars. So a lot in that category. 4 3.5, 1 3, 3 2.5, and 1 1-star. So typically I find that the majority of my books range from about 2, 2.5 up. It's rare that I put it at 1. If I put it at 1, then it's one that I probably should have DNF'd. And I actually did write that in my notes because I'm going to read some of my notes about this one because I want to try to explain why I felt like I did about this particular book. But I can say out of 18 books, I didn't DNF anything in the month of June. So that's actually better than any of my other months for the year. So I was pretty happy with that all around. My average rating in total was 3.5. And out of the 18, 10 of the books were physical, the rest were ebooks. And interestingly, in the upper half, so that would be the books that I liked the least, the majority of them were ebooks. When we get into the ones that I liked the most, they were mostly physical. Just ended up that way. They were all adult rated, so no YA or anything like that. 2 from NetGalley out of the ebooks, and I'll mention that when we go through. But I read mystery, paranormal romance, regular romance, cozy mystery, fantasy, contemporary, fantasy romance, epic fantasy, and 2 sci-fi. So that is basically, those are my stats. Now, I had my challenges, and out of my challenges, I have my 25 must-reads in 2025, and I will put up for you the, on one of the 2 sides, I don't know, it kind of depends when I'm editing the video, so I will put it up for you, but I did read everything that I was supposed to read this month, going in. So what you're looking at here is also, I've also X'd out what I have to read for the month of July, which I'm almost done that too, because I'm filming this in July. So I really don't have much left. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 books left, and one of them, which is right at the bottom, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, is being left right until the end of the year, and I'm going to be reading the entire set of 5 books from the Hunger Games. So that one I already know is going to be left to the end. Heat of the Everflame may not get read this year. I am saving that one until I know that the 4th one is out. So until we get a publication date on the 4th one, I don't think there is at this point. But once we have a publication date, then I want to read that one like say the month before, and then pick up the the fourth one and read that. So that's basically for that. And then I have 2 buzzword challenges. I'll put them up on either side. And as you can see from the buzzword challenges, I have I read everything that I was supposed to read in June. So for the cover challenge, I was supposed to read Godblind. I did read that, and we're going to review it. And then for the reading challenges, I was supposed to read Remember the Fear, which is an ebook, and I did read that, and we're going to review that. So I'm completely caught up. And in actual fact, the July book for the reading challenge, whichever side I put that on, which is Love Theoretically, I read that in June. So we're going to review that as part of June, because I did read that in June. I was ahead, and I needed another book for the Amazing Readathon. So I read that romance, and we're going to review that. So everything for all of my challenges is 100% caught up. And I always like to see that everything is where it's supposed to be, because it's super important. All right, so that's it for the laptop. Don't really need the laptop anymore for anything. At least I don't think I do. If I do, well, I left it on, so we can open it up. Now, what I want to review first is the book that I rated the lowest at 1 star. I will give you the rating for this one, because I really had some strong feelings about this one. And it is a FBI thriller investigation, a Clara Pike mystery, which is one of Molly Black's many mysteries. So this one is Remember the Fear. Now, I can't remember what one this is, but this is the first one in a series. And I got this off BookBub for free. Happy that that was the case, because I didn't have to pay for it. Thank God I didn't have to pay for it. So I did not like the author's writing style. It was just too much. And so I made some notes. So I had an issue with the fact that she would describe things in such a way that they made very little sense. And in some cases, it was just verbose and really drawn out. So I'm going to read this. So they're arriving at this woman's house. They're investigating murders. I don't even remember 100% everything that went on, because I disliked the book so much. But of course, there was murders. There was multiple murders, and they're trying to investigate these multiple murders. And even the main character, I think, let me see, Clara. Clare is the main, and then her, I don't know if I have his name in here anywhere, Derek. Derek was her partner. They had a weird relationship, but I don't think it was because that was supposed to be that. It was because the dialogue was so bad in the book. It was very stilted and not like normal talking. Okay, so, but the descriptive things. So one of the ones that I noted here is Rebecca nodded mutely, stepping aside to grant them entry. Her apartment was a canvas of sorrow, with personal effects that whispered of happier times, now overshadowed by the shroud of mourning. So what does that mean? Because it doesn't actually say, like, I think it's her trying to show, but it's not showing us anything, because it didn't tell me, like, what are the things that are the happier times and what are the things that are shrouded in more, like, how do you know this? This woman has just opened her door to you and you don't know her. Do you know what I mean? So this was, and that's why my note that I posted was, what does that even mean? Because it didn't mean anything, because you don't know this person. So how would you know what's happier and what's not happy? Do you know what I mean? I don't know if I'm being picked, but it was just, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. So then This is one paragraph, and I'm not even sure what she was trying to say, but I'll read my note on what I said at the end of this paragraph. Naomi's hand hovered over the weathered brass handle of the tall arched doorway, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm that echoed the trepidation coursing through her veins. With a deep breath that did little to steady her nerves, she pushed open the door, the hinges protesting with a long, drawn-out creak that seemed to resonate within the hollow remnants of the old library. The scent of mildew and decay assaulted her senses, a stark contrast to the crisp, musty aroma of well-loved books that once filled the air. She stepped inside, her steps unsteady as the last rays of twilight fought to illuminate the ruins that through broken windows and gaping holes in the walls. Now, that was one paragraph, but this went on for multiple pages, okay? And my comment was, good God, just say it, for crying out loud. So I'm not sure what point, obviously I know because there was an end point eventually, okay? But like this was just, it's almost like she was just trying to stretch it out to make enough words to publish the book. Anyway, so that was the thing. Then the other one was just some of the, I'm trying to read here. What does it say? Like one I said, thinking they had everyone had gotten out, realized there was a child unaccounted for. That's poor editing. There's quite a bit of this through the book, because it's like the word "had" is in there twice, and it shouldn't be, and it breaks up the sentence. And I was, you would stop and think, is that right? Main character, no personality. Derek, her partner, had a bit more personality, but not very much, right? Then they arrive at a crime scene. They literally just got there. Her partner says, tracks with what we know about her, athletic, strong, she wouldn't have gone down easy. I say, how do they know? They literally just got there and haven't talked to a soul. They don't know who the victim is. They know nothing. They just got there. A fresh murder. Fresh, I hate it. That's a bad description. But you know what I mean? And then another example of this is, yes, her best friend died during our senior year. Rachel, she hung herself in the school auditorium. Cassie was the one who found the body. And how is it they couldn't have found that out until now? So this was significantly further in the book, but this is something they should have known because this is an old case, okay? So anyways, that's just me being picky. Clearly I didn't like it, and I would not recommend it to anybody who, I can't recommend the book, but it could just be purely writing style, didn't agree with me. Maybe I'm just bitching too much. Because I'm hot, because it's been so bloody hot here. And anyways, I didn't like the book. So that's it for that one. Okay, so next up is Convergence. So this one I rated right in the middle. I liked it enough that I'm going to continue on because it is a series. It is a sci-fi romance series. And this is about a behaviorist, I guess she's a behaviorist psychologist by the name of Olivia. And Olivia works for the Los Angeles Police Department. And she is kidnapped, and she's kidnapped by an alien. And this alien has taken her to his ship, not to do anything bad to her. He actually needs the help of someone with her skills because they have a problem. So what you have is you have a group of aliens, and there are multiple different ones. And this particular group that has kidnapped her, they are a police. They're like the alien police, special forces. That's kind of how they're described in the book. They're not human. They don't even look human. Like all of the descriptions, because there are multiple different types of aliens, and they're all described differently. But essentially, what they have is they have a problem with human trafficking. And we're talking human trafficking. So there are these guys that are going to Earth, these aliens, and they are stealing people. And so we're talking children, grown-ups. Not enough that we'd notice. I mean, we have billions of people in the world, but on the ship, I think there's around about 1,000. There's a lot of humans. These aliens, they don't know how to deal with the humans, so that's number one. Number two is they can't take them home, so they know that once they rescue them, they have to provide a settlement for them. So what they need someone like her for is to give them a way to understand the humans. They can eventually you can get a communication device, which obviously she gets so that she can communicate with all of them. So I thought it was really interesting, that part. And then on the other side of the coin, so this Commander Tarian, he is attracted to her. But for his species, they have what's called convergence. And when they converge, essentially they mate for life. I mean, that is, and if they don't, it is very painful for them. So this is what's happening along with everything else, is her and him, because she grows to like him very much. And the book spans a fairly lengthy period. Like this, this stuff doesn't happen overnight. Takes her some time to get used to them. And then eventually they rescue the humans. And they know that this is just a small part of this whole trafficking system, but they do rescue them. And she is part of the whole process, which is kind of interesting. I think it's very interesting. And it's interesting. And there are some aliens that I find a little questionable, but they do assist. So multiple different aliens assist in this whole rescue. And yeah, so that's basically where that goes. But then it kind of like it ends with them taking the humans to this one planet. And it's a planet that has water and greenery and all of that. So they think the humans will be able to survive. They're going to give them everything they need. They've left people there to help them. So that's what's going to happen there. And her relationship with him has developed, but he has to take her home. And apparently, I don't know if I should say this, because it's something that comes out at the end, but it basically ends where the second book is still this couple. Now, I did look ahead, and the third book is a different couple altogether. So this is just, these two are the first two books. So I will continue because I do want to know what happens with them once he takes her home, because there's a whole lot of politics going on there. And she's human, which is like super weird, right? So anyway, so it did, I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it enough to continue on to the next one. All right, so then we're going to move to the Supernatural Crimes Unit. So basically, this was an arc. Was it from Neck Alley? I think it was from Neck Alley. And this is a paranormal crime investigation. So it is the New York Police Department. And they have a division called the SCU, which is to basically capture all of the monsters. So we're talking like there's vampires and there's witches and there's like they call one a domovoi. I mean, there's all these weird paranormal. And this is just literally their investigations into the whole thing. And then, like I said, the majority of the book is spends more time going through the motions of investigation, almost like a TV police procedural. Okay, so it's like watching an episode of Law and Order. And this is it. So, you're getting down to the nitty gritty of the people who work in the units and what each of their positions are. And it gives a little bit of insight into their lives, a little, because it literally is a police procedure on paper. And that's what it was. And for me, it was very average because I felt like there were no stakes. There were, but you didn't feel like, because they're dealing with supernatural elements, and one of them is a guy who, he wants to wield magic and rule the world. So there was that. So they're dealing with that all in. It was one of their investigations, but it didn't feel high stakes because there was all this other crap going on. But yeah, I think this could have been better if it was written in almost small novellas that were like this was 380 pages. So if it maybe was like 150 pages and you got like a snippet of what was going on, then you got another 150 pages, another snippet that was going, do you know what I mean? Like, I think that it might have been better if it had been written like that. Didn't hate it, but it got a little convoluted in a lot of places because you're following a ton of different points of view, all of the different officers. Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, the most enjoyable part was, of course, the paranormal parts, because some of them were funny and some of it was like, holy crap. So anyway, so that was that book, and that was okay. All right. So then the next one that I read, again, very middle of the road, it was a romance called That's Amore, and it's by Maya Alden. And it was a typical contemporary romance. Now, these two are already married. The grandfather of the husband, he passes away. Now, he was the one who arranged the marriage between Alyssa and Dante. And Dante is having a conversation with his friend, and Alyssa overhears it about how he feels like he's burdened by her, doesn't know if he wants to continue the marriage. So this is rated, the tropes that are given for it are second chance, marriage of convenience, arranged marriage. So that actually comes first, okay? And then second chance is because she leaves him, okay? And she is done. Like, she hears that conversation. It's like, you know what? You've basically treated me like shit for the whole year, because I think they were together a year. I think it was a year. The whole time we were together, and you're right. Your grandfather's gone, and he was the only reason. He was the glue that held them together. And so it's got overheard. It's other woman drama. So there is another woman who works. Now, he runs a company, I think with hotels and that sort of thing. So, he's got money. And the lawyer is his ex-girlfriend. Alyssa thinks they're having an affair. And she thinks that he wants to be with this woman. So she's going to, like, bye, I'm gone. And it's set in Rome. There is no cheating. So he actually did not cheat. But anyway, and it is a standalone, and it's just these two. What I liked about the book was I enjoyed how he had to grovel. And he was a good groveler, okay? And I liked how he, in his points of view, really came to understand how bad he treated her, okay? And she did not make it easy for him to get back together with her. So it was a constant struggle, And that was the part that I enjoyed about the book, but it got a little lengthy. It was 344 pages. Probably could have been wrapped up in 250 to 300 pages. So it got to be a little bit much, but eventually how their relationship developed into the true relationship of husband and wife was interesting. What was also funny was she asked for a divorce. She had divorce papers drawn up because the woman who owned the cafe where she worked, restaurant that she worked at, because she enjoyed working, because Dante didn't understand why she wanted to work. But she liked working, and the woman's mother, I think, was like one of the best divorce attorneys in Italy, or in Rome, and she drew up the divorce papers, and he's like, holy crap, but he didn't sign them, and he didn't file them. So technically they're married throughout this whole thing, still married. And I found that interesting. It was pretty good, awful cover, really. But, it was like one of those old Harlequin romance covers. That's what it reminded me of. But I enjoyed the romance overall. So next one is Death at the Dinner Party by Ellie Alexander. So this is the third book in the Secret Bookcase mystery series, I think is what it's called. I enjoyed this. I read these ones all on Kindle Unlimited. And I think there are a total of 6 books in the series, I believe. And, I've enjoyed it. Now, the first one was, very middle of the road. The second one, absolutely loved the second one. And the third one, it kind of sits between those two. Now, in this particular one, this one does not center around the bookstore, because there is a bookstore where Annie Murray works with her other two, with Hal, who owns the bookstore, and Fletcher, who works with her. So they work at the bookstore. They are in this, but this is not centered at the bookstore. So in this particular case, what Annie has been asked by her friend Pri is to help her and her love interest, Pri's love interest, Penny, to try to raise money so that Penny can finish restoring the historical property that she's bought. Now, she's bought this property in the town where they live, in this small town in Northern California, because of Pri. She wants to be near Pri, so she bought the property. But she's run out of money. She has fixed up, I think, the main house, but there are other sections that need to be fixed and need to be restored. And so it is historic. Because it is a historical property, they think they can do a dinner party and they can raise money. So this is where this all comes to fruition. Now, this historic farmhouse has all kinds of stories going on about it. But of course, the biggest story is that Penny's being pressured to try to sell the property by a few different people. Now, it seems clear that it has to do with the fact that the property has value. Now, they have the dinner party, and someone at the dinner party dies. Chaos ensues. Now, there's a huge storm going on outside, and at some point they lose electricity, and there's all kinds of shenanigans happening. I will say that I think in this particular one, she really got me on who the killer was. I had no idea. Honestly, no clue. Who I thought it was, didn't even get, yeah, she got me on that one for sure. I don't remember. On the first one, I think I kind of had an inkling in the first book. I think in the second book, it had a bit of a twist, but there were only specific people that it could have been for that one. In this particular one, there were so many people at this dinner party that it, like, how would you know who it was? You know, it was really right down to the end. Bit of Agatha Christie that way. So I enjoyed it, and will be moving on to the 4th book in the series. Already have that loaded into my Kindle, so at some point I will get onto that one. But I enjoy reading these, and it was really, yeah, it was really a great book. I quite liked it. All right. So our next book was another arc, and this one I actually quite enjoyed. This one, it was a crime, murder, thriller, and it's called Other People's Houses, and it was by Clare Mackintosh. So this is part of a series, and I don't know, I can't remember what the series, specifically what the series is called. Does it say here? No, but it is, it takes place in Wales. So it's over on the other side of the world. And it follows, I think it's Fionn Morgan. I think that's her name. She's the female detective. And then Leo Brady, who is also a detective, but they work out of different department precincts, divisions. That's probably a better way to put it. They work out of 2 different, completely different divisions. They do not work together, which is probably a good thing because they're together as a couple. And what happens is eventually the 2 things that they're each investigating come together in the end. And it is a bit convoluted. So how these 2 cases, so hers is a murder case on the one side, his begins as a theft case. So it's, do you know what I mean? Like, it's like completely different. But what happens in between drags a little bit. So I kind of got a bit, was like, oh my gosh, where are we going with this? Like, it took too long, in my opinion, for them to bring the 2 cases together. Because once she brought the 2 cases together, the author, it just ran from there. It was fantastic. Okay. So I'd say the first half of the book, maybe even more than 50%, was really slow. Okay. And then the last part, just, yeah, snappy and great. And who actually committed the murder? Wow. You know, and it ended up being more than one murder in the end. And then along with that, you're dealing with, now Leo is a dad and divorced person. And his ex-wife is a piece of work, and she happens to live close to where these robberies happen, which is in a very influential residential neighborhood. And she's trying to get in with these people. And she actually does things that you just kind of sit back and think, woman, just don't do these things, you know? So there's her, he's dealing with her, and I liked it. I liked it enough that, this was a Nick Ellie arc, I liked it enough that I would consider going and looking back to the beginning, because there are previous books in this series where Fionn and Leo meet and they come together. So I am like, I think I want to go back and read those, because I liked this one enough that I would want to do it. I just wish she had kind of gotten to it a little quicker. But once she got to it, it was fantastic from that point on. And who the killer was complete surprise. 100% complete surprise. Yeah. There were like a ton of suspects, but none of the suspects were the person. No, like, yeah. Anyway, I don't know if that's a spoiler or not. Hopefully that's not a spoiler, but I did really like that one. Okay, and then we have Killer of Mine, which is, it's by Alexis Grace, and this is the first book in a Why Choose series. Really liked it. It's romantic suspense. This is why I liked it. Now, I'm not a huge White Shoes normally, but I liked this because there was more suspense than necessarily the White Shoes. So what you have is you have Freya, and she is, now I'm trying to remember, she worked for the FBI or, yes, she is an special agent with the FBI, and she's become it. However, she's hiding something, and she's hiding a big secret, okay? And she meets this group of guys who work like in the BAU, it's like behavior analysis, and they work as a team. And I think there's 4 of them, okay? And they're very close. They live together. And you find this out, obviously, as you're going through. And they know something's not right with Freya. Something doesn't seem completely right. And they uncover her true identity, which is a bombshell. Huge. There are actually a bunch of bombshells as you're going through. And while there are sexual parts to the book, I found that was a minimal part, like not minimal, but there was a huge story in behind this. And the thing is, it ends on a cliffhanger. So this story continues into the next book. So this is not, now I can't remember exactly how many books there are in the series. I think there's 3, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And I absolutely 100% will be reading on to the next book because I quite liked this one. And yeah, it was really good. So I liked the suspense. Listen, if I can find romantic suspense that is gripping and has a really great story behind it, then I'm in. 100% I'm in. I mean, yeah, like the sex is the sex and the spicy parts is the spicy parts. And I don't mind anything that's, sits maybe around 3 chili peppers, as they would say. So kind of right in the middle where there's just enough of it that it's part of the developing relationships with the men, the 4 of them. But it's not enough to be, the book is just about sex, because it's not. It's actually about this story that's happening. And that's why I liked it. And I 100% will continue on with this. So yeah, book 1, moving on to book 2. We're going to get into some of my printed books. And so next up is Love Theoretically by Ellie Hazelwood. First book I've ever read by Ellie Hazelwood, and I didn't mind it. Elsie and Jack were good characters, and I actually put a little tab in here to indicate that the sexual content didn't appear until here. This is just them developing their relationship. What I really liked about this was who Elsie was. I loved the whole premise of this. So basically, what Elsie did, beside the fact that she was an adjunct professor, what does it say? She was adjunct professor, and she was teaching thermodynamics, and she was hoping to land tenure. Overall, when you go through this book, you understand the fact that that's actually not what she really wanted to do. But she has to go through jump through a lot of hoops to understand who she is through the book, which I loved that part of the book. Now, the other part of her that I loved and actually made me laugh, I laughed quite a bit in the book. I thought there were some freaking funny parts. But the one thing was, so she worked for a place, is it called Fake? Now, was it called Fake? Fake Dating. So I think it's called Fake. And she worked as a woman who would go out on dates. These guys would hire her for a particular reason. They needed a girlfriend. So she would be a fake girlfriend. She never got involved in them. But there was this one that she did, and so she continued to go with him different. Not because they were boyfriend and girlfriend, but because she liked him, and I think she felt bad for him, and she wanted to go with him. So she would go, and he had this brother Jack, who she felt hated her. They didn't get along together. Blah blah blah. So anyway, she interviews for a position as a professor with MIT. So it's a particular job, okay? Now, there's all kinds of politics in the background going on with this, but it turns out that Jack is somebody who she's kind of hated all her professional career and never knew who he was. Never knew it was this guy. It's this guy's brother. And oh my gosh, it's kind of a bit of a disaster, I tell you. It made me laugh, okay? And it had like some, is it Ashton? Was Ashton his name that she went out with? I'm trying to remember if it was Ashton. But it had, okay, so here's one of the parts, which these were things that made me laugh. So these are all emails that she'd got. Okay, I don't know if you can tell, but they're like email format. And these are all emails she would get from her students for excuses why they couldn't do the assignments. And these would pop up through the book, and they were funny. And it was one of the things that, of course, frustrated her the most. And she'd get really upset and, annoying. But what is she going to do? Is it Jack's brother's name is Greg? I think it was Greg. I mean, my memory's terrible. Outside of the fact that the whole idea of the way that they came together and how their relationship, I loved how their relationship developed. I just felt it was a little long. But it spanned time, which I preferred. Like you don't want them to jump into bed together or anything along those lines. And I think that the thing for him is that through the time that she was dating his brother, he actually was developing feelings for her. So I liked that part. Yeah, it was the cutest thing ever. And I did enjoy this. Now, the other Allie Hazelwood book that I have is Bride. And that's actually I'm not going to read it in August, but I think September I'll read that because I have a ton of other ones to read in August. So it's on my 25 must-reads for 2025 is Bride, which will probably get read in September. And I'm actually looking forward to it, but it is different because it is paranormal romance. So we'll see how this goes. And this is contemporary romance. And, contemporary romance for me doesn't always hit the mark. And this whole STEM academic, and I'm like, that was part of her character and who she was. And kind of how the whole story developed had to do with that. But I don't really care one way or the other. All I cared about was the character development between the two, which was, it was comical and it was fun. They were fun characters. So that's why I really enjoyed that one. Okay. So let me I'm checking them off my list as we go down. So, because, we have 18 to go through. Try to get through these fast. Okay, the next one is a novella. Well, it's short, 150 pages in around there. And it is Forest, Fishing, and Forgery. And this is the third book in the Campers and Criminals Cozy Mystery series. And I really enjoyed this one. Now, this takes place, Labor Day weekend. So I think it is kind of like towards the tail end, obviously, of RVing camping season and that sort of thing. But Mae West has a full house at this campground. Now, she ended up with this campground in the divorce from her husband, which was in the first book. And he ended up as the first dead body in the first book. Didn't have anything to do with her, but he ended up the first dead body. So, and it's the campground is in Normal, Kentucky. So it's in Kentucky. And there are all of kinds of fun characters. And it ends up that one of the forest police guys, I forget what the hell they're referred to, he ends up dead. And they find him on a trail. Her and this guy that she's out on the trail with, hiking, they find him. And he's dead. So that's where the story starts. And it kind of, there was a bunch of guys, so groom and groomsmen. The groom goes missing. They don't know where he is. The bride shows up. There's clearly something going on between the bride and the best man. So there's that. Then there's this nosy reporter who is also in the mix. And she ends up as your second dead body. Okay. And who actually kills them is a thing. And then May goes out again. But who is it? I'm trying to remember. Because there's the two guys. Hank is the guy who she kind of, Hank and Ty. So Hank and Ty, they grew up in this area. And Ty is, his father owns one of the diners, the main diner in the town. And Ty has come back. He's a chef. And he's come back to take over from his father because his father has had a heart attack at one point and all that sort of thing. So Ty is kind of running it now. And he lives at the campground. And he has his two younger brothers live there and stay there along with his dad. So he's kind of a love interest on it. And then there's Hank. And Hank is, and Hank and Ty kind of don't like each other. Okay. And Hank is the sheriff or chief, police detective, police guy. And so he's obviously involved in every case because that's the case. And so they're both in here. And her relationships with them have kind of gone through a thing. But she happens to be out with Ty. They're going swimming at the swimming hole and they find another dead body. Anyway, so that's where it goes. And that is all packed into 150 pages. I want you to know. These books are great. Always loved them. Now, the first book, I think, kind of sat around to 3. Okay. The second book was like 5. It was so good. The second book was so good. This one, again, kind of like the first, like Death at the Dinner Party. Similar to Death at the Dinner Party, this sat between book 1 and book 2 as far as my enjoyment. It was kind of in the middle. Wasn't 5 stars, but it was still really good. So, yeah. Liked that quite a bit. Okay, so then we have How to Become a Dark Lord and Die Trying. I enjoyed this very much, okay? Now, not 5 stars because there were certain parts of it that I felt dragged a little. But, so what you have is you have Davi, and Davi she's human, and she is in a time loop. As you get into the book, you realize how long she's been in this time loop. A really long time. And the very beginning of the book, which is hilarious, okay? She's decided she's not going to side with the humans anymore. So it always starts at the same point. And she's at this watering hole, and this wizard guy comes to get her, and she goes off with him, and then she ends up dead. And it starts again, right? So she decides she's going to do something different this time. And her decision is she's going to side with the other guys. And so she is going constantly through this time loop, trying to figure out a way in with these other guys. And she always gets to the same point and she dies. She gets to the same point and she dies until she doesn't. Okay. And then she's winging it. Right. But the idea is that she's decided she's going to be the Dark Lord. And to get to be the Dark Lord, she has to go through tests, which are also in this. And yeah, so I don't want to say too much more. She makes some great friends through it, and she makes some great enemies through it as well. And let me tell you, it's like just one thing after another. Now, what dragged out a little bit for me is their journey. She's with this group of, like, say, orcs, I think it is. And it's their journey from when she convinces them they have to go to this place, and they have to cut through places they shouldn't be cutting through, okay? Because they have to get there fast. Because they know that this competition is going to happen, and they have to get there in a certain amount of time, or this whole thing has been a waste of time for her, right? So she gets them, and that's their journey. But during their journey, it is long and gets a bit convoluted through it. So that kind of lost me a little bit. So it's just like a little bit of the middle part, because the beginning of it is fantastic and the end of it is wow. Okay. Love the end. And at the very end, oh my God. Yeah. So I actually bought sequel to it because it's a duology. So I just bought that. And I do plan on reading it. I'm hoping to read it soon because it sounds like it's going to be really good. If it's anything like this one, oh my God, yeah. I loved the author's writing. I really, really, truly enjoyed this one. So can't say enough about it. Okay. So the next one is Witch at the End of the Tunnel. So I need to open my computer for this one. So this was an ebook. And this is a series that I have been reading. This is book 2. It is, how many? 12 books in the it's a long series. And it's a cozy paranormal mystery series. Now it begins, it's by Harper Hart. Sorry. So it begins the first one, Hallie Waverly, who is our main character, and she's a witch, and she got hurt in the first one. And from the injury, she finagled money and a tiki hut on this resort that this guy who hit her owned. But she runs this tiki hut bar autonomously. So the resort has no say, so she can do what she wants there, her little piece of pie, and she gets to do what she wants. But there's murder mysteries that have happened, and in the first one, she ends up meeting this guy named Grayson Hunter, who he's a private detective, and he is a wolf shifter. Okay, and the two of them meet, and they investigate the first murder, and they kind of like each other, but nothing happens. You get to the end of the book, nothing happens. So in this particular book, they are crossing paths again because, again, Gray has been hired to find out about this man's wife. Initially, he was supposed to follow her because they thought she was cheating. He thought, the husband thought she was cheating, and she's significantly younger than him. We're talking like 25 years younger than him. And so Gray was hired to hire her, and she ends up dead on the beach. So this is how the two of them come together. Now, everything that happens in these books is paranormal. And in this particular one, again, you have a paranormal entity that they realize is kind of like trying to create sort of a cult happening. And of course, they fight that. And at the very end, well, I'm not going to say anything at the very end. It is really good. I quite enjoyed this one. I think, it sits right, the book 1 and book 2 loved them both, and I will continue on to book 3. I think I've already loaded it in my Kindle. I've been reading these ones on Kindle Unlimited as ebooks, so I don't have to pay for them. And yeah, so that's that one, and I quite enjoyed that one. Okay, all right, next one is Beartown, which I didn't know if I was going to like this one, by Fredrik Backman. Had no idea if I was going to like it. I quite enjoyed it. It is a heavily emotional story. I don't want to get into exactly what occurs. Let's just say that it is stressful. So it centers around, it's a town, I believe it's in Sweden. I think that's where it takes place. And it's this small town that has this junior hockey team. I think it's a junior hockey team. And they are good, a very good team. And they are basically worshipped. It's like this whole town's identity centers around this hockey team. Okay. And what you have in here is you have multiple points of view. So this is where it took me a bit to get into the author's writing style, because you would go through a chapter, and every time there was a break in the chapter, you were getting a different person's point of view. Okay? So, but essentially, one of the main characters was Peter, who is the coach. Is it the coach? Or he's the general manager of the team? I think he's the general. He used to play in the NHL in Canada, and he's come back and he's taken this position to manage the team. That's how important the team is to the town. And then there is his wife. Can't recall her name offhand. Kira? I think Kira is his wife. And his daughter's name is Maya. They're kind of key to this whole thing. And then there are the boys on the team. And so it goes through multiple points. So there are probably, no lie, 15 to 20 points of view in this book, which can get confusing. There's even like to a point there's a woman who owns one of the bars in the town, and even her points of view show up kind of like middle to last quarter, last 30%. She starts showing up. There's important reasons that her point of view is there, and I liked that once I got used to it. It took me a bit to get used to it. It probably took me, I'd say, a good 100 pages for sure before I got used to it. And how many pages were in this book? 400 and something? Yeah, just over 400. So it took me, a quarter of the book. But once you get used to it, then it starts to flow really well. But the story is heavy, super emotional, and check your triggers, okay? Because there are things that happen in this book that are triggering. For sure, 100%. So I would say that I'd be very careful about it. I loved this so much that I've bought the 2 that fall, because it's a 3-book series. So I have bought the other 2 and will most definitely be reading them. That's how much I enjoyed this one. Yeah, it was really, really good. It just took me a long time to get used to the writing style. And so that's why it's not a 5-star because of that. But it's pretty darn close. Okay, yeah. Really, really like that one. Okay. Then City of Gods and Monsters by Kayla Edwards. And this is part of a House of Devils series. And I think there are 4 books in the series. But I've got 3. I've got 3 of them. But I think maybe there's 5. I don't know. But longer than hell. 700 and something pages. But I enjoyed the whole book. Now, it wasn't a 5-star for me. I think that my issue, so it's following Loren and Darian. Now, she's human, and he is a dark slayer. And right at the very beginning of the book, her and her 2 friends, they're out for the evening. They have to get home. You do not want to stay out late, dark at night. And one of her friends gets kidnapped, and she gets saved. And Darian, when he realizes that she's human, decides to help her because they need to try to find her friend. And the thing is that the person they were trying to grab was Loren. Okay? So she was the target of them. And so this whole book is kind of him and his group trying to investigate why they have such an interest in her because she's human, because that doesn't seem right. And it all kind of filters out at the end. And of course, there's bad guys. But let me tell you. So this reminded me, people say it reminds you of Crescent City. And yes, it does remind me of Crescent City. A little bit. But how the relationship develop between Loren and Darian is completely different. And it doesn't develop in a sexual manner, really, heavily until you get closer to the end. They get closer, but this is over a significant amount of time. And then at the very end, what happens at the very end was crazy. It caught me off guard. And what caught me off guard was who was the main bad guy, so to speak. So it doesn't end on a cliffhanger per se, but you know it's not over, right? And that is similar to the Crescent City books, because particularly the first book. In the first book, it seems like things are okay, you know? So that's kind of how this reminded me. You know, I think it's romantasy, to me it's a fantasy with romance in it. It's more fantasy. It's heavily paranormal. It has all those elements to it. Has a heavy magic system in it, which I quite enjoyed. And yeah, I enjoyed this book thoroughly, 100%, which I'm glad, because I had bought the first 3. I'm glad I really enjoyed it. And it was actually a fairly easy read for a 700-page book. So what that says to me is the book flowed nicely. Had some slow parts, a little bit, like little slow periods, and had some things in it that I thought didn't get answered. But I'm assuming it'll get answered, and it'll probably get answered because you think that it kind of has to get answered as you go forward. It has to do with Loren, right? So yeah, it kind of has to get answered, but really good. Quite enjoyed it, and very much looking forward to book 2. I've heard nothing but good things about book 2, so that'll be going on my TBR hopefully at some point soon. But heck, that was like a brick to read. Okay, so then the next one is Godblind. And Godblind was actually on one of my reading challenges. And so I had this one in, and I had attempted to read it, was it last month? It is a very intense, grim, dark, epic fantasy. Okay? It has a lot of moving parts and a ton of points of view. Once you get into it, it does not take long for those points of views to converge and you get a clearer understanding where the story is going. But it took about 50% of the book to get there. Now, luckily, I liked the first 50% enough to continue, and the last 50% was fantastic. So It's a 3-book series, and the next book I think is Dark Soul, and I will be continuing on with it. Now, it is about these basically separated factions that all, now, like one of the factions is called Wolves, but they're not really wolves. So all these people are human, essentially, okay? So there's the wolves, and then there's the Maehrer. They are like, they worship like dark gods. They are nasty, okay? And there's the Rilporians, and they are the main heavy-duty people. The king lives in Ripor, that sort of thing. So that is the Maehrer. They want to take over everyone, and they're bad news, like really bad news. But the king, his wife was murdered. He's not doing well, and his 2 sons are both have points of view, and certain things happen with the 2 sons. So that's where it's kind of at with it. And then there is a couple of other people involved. So there's Dom, and he's one of the wolves, so to speak. And he has insight, like sight, like that sort of idea. And then there is Chris, who is a soldier. He's important. And then there's Rillerin. So she, right at the very beginning, she gets away from this guy, one of the Maehrer, the king, so to speak, and she kills him because he's trying to essay her. It is brutal. There are scenes in this book that's where the whole grimdark thing comes in, because, like, man, if you can't handle that stuff, you can't handle blood and gore, you don't read this book. It's not for you. Because it's pretty descriptive, and right at the very beginning, that's where that happened. And Rillerin gets away, and she runs away. But then her brother, who is part of the Maehrer, decides he's going to be king, and he's power hungry. And he doesn't realize that the slave that killed the king, and he realized eventually, is his sister. So she's heavily tied into everything, and they need her. Now, there doesn't say what they need her for, and it doesn't say what they need Dom for, because they need him. So so it's a very black magic element in behind everything. So, loved it, 100%, thoroughly enjoyed it. We'll be moving on to the second book in the series, for sure, because, by the time it got to the end, I was like, oh my God, I got to read the next book. That's how you know the first one was really good, right? So we're getting down to the last 4. So the 3 are probably 3 of my favorites before we get to the final one, which is my all-time favorite. Okay. So the next one was Heavenbreaker by Sarah Wolf. And this one, I wasn't sure what to expect with it. Gonna be perfectly honest. And I loved it. I thought it was really good. Okay. It wasn't perfect, but it was really good. And I liked it enough that I really would like to read the next one that's coming out, because there is now I don't know if it's just a 2-book series. It would be nice if it was just a duology, but so and it kind of reminded me a little bit of sort of a kind of Red Rising, a bit. So what happens is our main character at the very beginning kills her father. And the reason she does is because she was basically born to a woman that he ignored them. They lived very poorly, and he sent an assassin to kill her mother and her. The assassin, however, didn't kill her. And it comes to light why he didn't kill her. So that becomes important. So once she kills him, in her attempt to get away, ends up in this mech suit gladiator, and she participates. she sneaks her way into this and participates in this arena thing. Now, this is all sci-fi. This is in space, okay? Because humans are now in these space stations. So a lot of this book centers around, she ends up getting rescued by a man because she's almost killed, obviously because she doesn't know what she's doing. But she does have a bit of a natural ability, okay? So she's rescued by this man, and he takes her under his wing, and he's going to teach her because she's going to participate in this huge cup fight, okay? And this is basically her constant need, as you go through it, in her head for revenge. And it's because this guy who has saved her has said to her, it wasn't just your father that was involved in your mother dying. There were 7 other people involved. So each match you win, one of them will die. And he doesn't tell her how. He doesn't tell her. He just promises, makes her that promise. And all I can tell you is I get through the, like, wow. Yeah. It was crazy because you're trying to figure out how she's going to make it in these. And let me tell you, in a lot of these fights, it's natural instinct that she survives and dumb luck. And that's how it's described. Because I read this one review of the book, and holy crap, they ripped the book apart. And it was saying, well, there wasn't any of this, and like there was no romance. No, there was no romance. There was one of the competitors who clearly has a thing for her. But like he wants to protect her. I mean, yeah. So there's that. And then it's like, well, how did she get the skill to win these fights? She didn't. She's developing skill. What's happening is, so these machines, it's kind of like they sit inside these machines, and it's almost like the idea of jousting. Like they're on a horse, it's a mechanical horse, they're in a machine, and the machine controls them, their bodies, their minds, everything. So it's kind of crazy that way. And there is a certain thing that's happening in these machines that eventually, if you ride in them long enough, you lose your mind. So there's all of that. But it's how it all transpires and how it all comes together. You know that there is something political happening in it. And the cliffhanger of this, yeah, wow, okay. Loved that. And so I will 100% read the sequel for this because I enjoyed it very much. Now, if you like sci-fi, if you like Red Rising, you will like this book. If you're looking for a fantasy romance, forget it. This is sci-fi fantasy, but it is sci-fi with some pretty grim stuff going on, okay? It's well written. I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the fact that her need for revenge slowly changes as you get through the book. It's there, but there are things that are happening to her, and she realizes they're happening to her. And yeah, so I love it. It was great. And now her point of view is the main point of view, but there are other subsequent points of view in here, including the assassin who killed her mother. That is another point of view. So there are things that are happening in the background that you're getting a lot of that in it, and I thoroughly loved it. 100%. Okay. And our next book is My Roommate is a Vampire by Jenna Levine. This one is one of my 25 must-reads for 2025. It's this one. And I loved this. This technically was supposed to be on my July TBR. And another one that I read ahead. Quick, super quick read, and just a lot of fun. So there is Fredrik, who is the vampire, and Cassie, who becomes his roommate. Now, his friend Reggie, puts the ad in for looking for a roommate, and it's $200 a month is what he puts in. He mistypes that. So she shows up, and she thinking it could be sketchy. It's like, who's going to rent a place? And his place is a gorgeous condominium. But everything is very old. Like, even the kitchen appliances look really old. Like, very, very old. So anyway, she gets in there. He interviews her, and she becomes his roommate. But he's really weird, keeps weird hours, not like a normal person. He's out at night, not out during the day. He sleeps during the day, all that sort of stuff. The entire book is funnier than hell, but I don't even want to tell the scene, because if I tell the scene on how she realizes something's wrong, because it's weird, it's funny, okay? I'm surprised she didn't faint and almost have a heart attack. But it turns out that he ends up asking her to help him acclimatize to the current world, because he's been asleep for 100 years, okay? Which was an accident, because of his so-called friend Reggie poisoned him by accident, and he ended up sleeping for 100. And they end up, they get pretty cool. And they write these long notes to each other. I see if I can find one. There's even text messages that happen, which are pretty funny. But it's the written notes. I'm trying to see if I can find one. So this is one of Fredrik's written notes. It's almost goes. So he writes her these long letters, and then she typically will write him back, right? And that ends up being their thing, the letters that they write each other, going back and forth. And he'll ask her the funniest things, the funniest questions. And, she's trying to help him, legitimately help him. And he falls in love with her. Okay, I think he falls first. I think she's interested, but she's like, he's a vampire. So, just the whole thing is, loved it. Now there is this book ends, so there is an interconnected next one, which is Reginald. So it's Reginald and a human that he's interested in. So that's in book 2. And I believe there's book 3 is coming out a little later. Is it later this year? I know there's a book 3, and that's two different. So they're all interconnected vampire romances. Yeah, great. Fabulous. Oh my gosh. Then I read, so this was my second favorite book of the month for June, Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Maehrer. And, it's funny because it took me a while to get to this. And I had seen so many reviews, good and bad. Okay. A lot of people said, the writing wasn't good, and there wasn't a great story behind it. Listen, this was a lot of fun. Now, the beginning and how she became his assistant, and there's quite a stretch of time in there that she is his assistant. This book probably spans a year, I'd say, something like that. She's his assistant for quite some time in the book, and he clearly likes her, but there's no romance really there at all. What is going on between him and the king is starting to come to fruition, to the point where at the end of the book, she has to take the lead on things. But her faith in him does not waver at the end of the book. So I I liked how their relationship developed. I liked how he was soft around her, and I liked how she became tough because she had to be. But let me tell you, she didn't miss shit. She knew everything that was going on, like everything that was going on. Now, who was behind what the things that were happening? Because there were things that were happening at his compound, the villain's compound, that could have killed people, okay, including her. And who was behind it? It was sad at the end. The ending was sad. To me, it was sad. But it does end up on a cliffhanger, and you know more crap is going down. And I do have the second one. And I do plan on continuing on to the second one 100% because I enjoyed this. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah. You know, wasn't a perfect book, but it was so good. And finally, the last book and the best book of June was Carl's Doomsday scenario. Loved it. 100%. Now, the first book, 6-star. So, you know, 5-star are my absolute favorites. But 6 stars are books that to me are top tier. So this one, though, really loved it. Now this is Carl and Princess Donut, and they're coming out of the first book. The first book was levels 1 and 2 of the game that they're playing. The very nasty game that they're playing. And this is level 3. Now, level 3 is a very important level because in level 3, you get to choose the way you look, your weapons. It's like you're choosing your play look, right? So, and it's certain things are going to level you up for certain aspects of your character, right? Now, both Princess Donut and Carl choose to remain as a cat and a human, but they take enhancements. So there are enhancements that they receive. The other thing at their level is this is the level where they can begin to get sponsors. So that's the other thing. They end up with Mordecai as a constant through the book, and that's just because of something that Princess Donut does. So there's a lot of things that happen in this book. Now, I've heard some people say that this wasn't as good as book 1. I still think it was really good. The comical elements were there. What I liked about this book that wasn't in the first book is certain aspects of Carl and his character and Donut and her character and their relationships with other crawlers, because there are other crawlers. They do come into contact with them. So I like that part better. And I also like one of the scenes, there's a scene where Carl has to go to this carnival to kill bad guys, right? But in his head, he's remembering his very first time at a carnival with his mother. So you're getting glimpses of who Carl is a lot more. The bad guys are still, and all of the different monsters that attack them are like still crazy as all hell. It's like super crazy. But oh my gosh, I loved this one so much. Like, yeah, I love this series. I figure if I still come out of book 2 and I loved it, yeah, enjoy this very, very much. Now, I'm not going to go on to book 3 immediately. I'm going to hold off and probably read. I'm going to put book 3. I'm just going to put it on my TBR. I'm going to give it a couple of months, probably in September. So I'm not going to read one in July, not going to read one in August. I will read one in September. So that's where we're at with it. And that is everything that I read for the month of June. It was a lot, but I do kind of like doing all of my reading wrap-ups in one because it just makes it so much easier for me to refer back. And I'm going to apologize. There was a lot I didn't remember. I tried to make notes, but I'm not good at making notes. I'm more one of these spontaneous, read the back, just kind of flip through. Yeah, that's just kind of me. But I had such a heavy reading month in May. I read over 30 books, don't even remember how many. And in this one it was 18. I'm going to try to keep what I'm reading to 15 on average per month maximum. I think for June, you might even get 10 or less. I'm just trying to give myself some breathing room because it was such a crazy May and April. Well, April, May, and June, I did readathons in all 3 months. So, yeah, crazy. Because that was an amazing readathon that I did in June. And I read all of those books for the amazing readathon. And I met all of the prompts that I had to. I had a good reading month. And I didn't DNF anything. So I say that was like huge success, right? What was my average? 3.5, I think was my average. I don't know if I said that at the beginning, but yeah. Okay, so that's it for me. And we're done for this one. And we'll see you in the next video.